Hello everyone, welcome to Lisa's Creative Home. Today we have 6 Valentine's Day home decor DIYs. Today's DIYs are going to be more on the neutral tones with some pink. In DIY number 1 is some heart garland. And for this DIY we're going to use some white yarn from Dollar Tree, some little wood hearts from Dollar Tree, and then the little pink and white hearts I got at Dollar General. And we're going to be using some white and pink chalk paint and some gray wood tint. And to start this DIY, I'm just going to take everything off the pink and white hearts. I'm going to sand them down so my chalk paint sticks a little better to them. I'm going to paint 2 of them in this light pink color and 2 in the white. And I gave all the hearts 2 coats of paint. And once the hearts were dried, I took the pink paint and distressed the white ones, and I took the white paint and distressed the pink hearts. Now I'm going to work on the tiny wood hearts. I had 15 of these little wood hearts. I'm going to put 5 between each of the pink and white hearts, and I just gave them a coat of the gray wood tint on both sides. I'm going to let all my little hearts dry, and there was some of these little white wood beads that came on the pink and white hearts, and I'm going to repurpose those, and I'm going to use them on each end of my garland. And then I just took my white yarn, I cut it to 36 inches, and then next I'm going to work on the ends of the garland, and I'm going to make little loops with the beads attached to make it where I can hang it on each side. And to do this, I just looped the end of the yarn. It was about 1.5 inches on each side, and then I'm just going to put that loop through the bead, and once I get it to the size that I want it to be, I'm just going to hot glue each end of the hole of the bead, and that's going to hold your yarn in place. Now I'm going to string the hearts onto the yarn, and I just used a large needle to do this. The first big heart, I had the point of the heart facing one way, and then I had the little hearts facing the other way. You could have them going all the same direction if you would like. This is just how I wanted it to look. And once I got them all stringed on the way I liked, then I worked on the other end, and I did the same thing. I folded over the end, made the loop, put it through the bead, and hot glued it into place. Once I got that done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to take the yarn that's laying on the back of the hearts, and I'm just going to glue that down the center of the hearts into place, and this is going to keep my hearts from flipping around on the yarn so they are all the same direction. And here is how they turned out. I styled them in a couple different ways. I have them on my window shelves, and I also put them on my buffet with a couple plants. DIY number 2 is a set of risers that could be used for Valentine's Day or spring. And to start this DIY, I have some recycled cans, some foam board, 2 of the chargers from Dollar Tree, and some of the stickers from Dollar Tree. And the first thing I did, I cleaned the cans really well, and I dried them, and I removed any of the adhesive from the label. Next, I'm just going to take the can and put it on the foam board and trace it out, and then I'm going to cut it out and put it on the inside of the can, the opening part. Once I get it where I want it, I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to sand off any extra. I'm going to use this as the bottom of the riser, the part that's going to be sitting on my table. And once I got it all sanded, to attach it to the opening of the can, I used a little E6000 and hot glue. Next, I just attached another can on top of the can that had the foam board. One riser is going to have 2 cans and the other riser is only going to have 1. I wanted one a little taller than the other. And now I'm going to work on the 1 can riser, and I'm just going to add the foam board like I did to the other one, and I'm just going to give them both a coat of black chalk paint. I wanted these to look a little more aged, so I'm going to take some of this gold rub and buff and I'm just going to rub it all over the outside of the cans. Now I'm going to work on the top of the charger. I'm going to attach the sticker using some of this super matte Mod Podge. I like the super matte because it kind of takes a lot of that shininess away that is on the chargers. And I just did this on both of the risers. I did go back in and put more of the super matte Mod Podge all over the edges of the charger too. I just wanted it to all look more aged. Now that everything is dry, I'm just going to use some E6000 and hot glue to attach the cans to the bottom of the chargers. Next, I took a Q-tip and some black rub and buff, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the Q-tip, and I'm just going to go around the edges of the chargers here and there to make it look like it's more of the aged white enamel. And here is how they turned out. I'll be showing you later in this video how I use them in several ways with some of the other DIYs. DIY number 3 is a Valentine's Day or spring mailbox. And to start this DIY, I just have one of these Christmas mailboxes from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to start by removing the flag, and I'm going to give it a couple coats of white chalk paint. Next, I'm going to take the color Pleasant Pink by Folk Art. It's also a chalk paint, and I'm going to coat the inside of the lid and the inside of the mailbox. I wanted the outside of the mailbox to have a little texture to it, so I have some of this lightweight spackling, and I'm just going to take a putty knife and I'm just going to roughly cover the whole outside of the mailbox. I did have to let this dry overnight. To do it again, I would probably use a different spackling. It almost felt like wet baking soda, but it did dry eventually, and I kind of didn't like the texture, so I did go back in with some sandpaper and I sanded it off, and once I did that, it made it look a lot better. Next, I'm going to take these stencils and I'm going to put a design on each side of the mailbox. This one is a little sunflower and it says, "You are my sunshine." And I did use pink chalk paint for this. I wanted everything to be very muted and neutral, but you could do any color you wanted if you wanted to do a red or something brighter. On the other side, I'm just going to use these butterfly letters, and I'm just going to spell out mail, and I'm just going to do the same thing as the other side. I'm going to use the pink chalk paint. Now I'm going to work on a little base for this mailbox. I thought these cans almost made it look like a post coming out of the bottom of the mailbox. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take more foam board. I'm going to cut out a circle that will fit up inside of the can. And then this time I'm going to give it a coat of white chalk paint. I did go in with my heat gun and dried the white paint, and once it was all dry, I took the gold rub and buff, and I did the same thing as earlier. I kind of just rubbed it on the edges. I didn't go quite as thick with the gold on this white. I wanted it to be very subtle. And once I got that dry, I'm just going to hot glue the can to the bottom of the mailbox. And for the flag, I just took a paper red and white straw, and I just gave it a coat of white chalk paint. And then I ended up using some of the felt hearts from Dollar Tree for the top part of the flag. I lost the clip, but here you can see what it looks like. And here is how the little mailbox turned out. DIY number 4 is wood Valentines letters. To start this DIY, I'm going to use one of these wood hanging signs from Dollar Tree. And you can see here, I just cut them into 5 pieces. They ended up measuring 4.5 by 3 inches. The wood was a little too wide to fit in the miter box, so I ended up using our miter saw to cut these pieces. Next, I'm going to paint the letters. I'm going to paint one white, 2 of them pink, and I'm going to stain the last 2, and then I'm going to distress them with white. Next, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to find the center of the wood pieces, and then I'm going to go in with this black paint marker, and I'm just going to go from the center to the corner to make my lines to make it look like a letter. Next, I went in with my thumb sander and I just sanded over those lines just so they looked a little more rough and not so perfect. Now I'm going to take these Valentine's Day stamps, and I'm just going to take this red chalk paint and I'm just going to paint over the letters or the hearts on the stamps, and then I'm just going to stamp the image on top of the wood. This gave it a little more, I guess, not so perfect look, which that is what I was going for. Next, I'm going to take some of these felt hearts from Dollar Tree. I took the smallest ones and I just did some white and some red and some pink, and I put them on the part where I made the lines to make it look like a letter. And then I'm going to go in with some of this lace, and I'm just going to hot glue it all along the edges of the wood pieces. And here is how our little Valentine's Day letters turned out. DIY number 5 is 2 Valentine's Day tag signs. To start this DIY, I have 4 of the large paint sticks, 2 hearts, I think they're from Dollar General, and I have 2 of the tag signs from Dollar Tree. And I also have some trim that I got at Menards, and I think there's 4 or 5 different styles. And I also have some scrapbooking paper. And the first thing I did, I just went with my sander and I just went over the front of the tags, and I just kind of sanded off all that glitter so my scrapbooking paper would lay more flat and you couldn't see any of that underneath it. And I'm just going to take some Mod Podge. I'm going to put a thin layer just over the bottom part. You can see I measured off a line at the top, and I just gonna smooth down that scrapbooking paper. It doesn't have to go to the edges on all sides because the paint sticks are going to be covering a lot of that up. Next, I'm going to take some of this walnut wood tint and I'm just going to stain all of my paint sticks. I only did 1 coat, and then I'm going to take the hearts and I'm going to give them a coat of white chalk paint, and then I'm going to go in and give it a coat of the light pink chalk paint. Next, I'm going to take those paint sticks that I stained and I'm just going to lay them into place. I'm not going to hot glue them on yet because I'm going to work on the top of the tag, and this is where I'm going to use the trim. And you can see here I'm just laying the trim on that top part, and I'm just marking off where I want to cut, and I'm just going to do that with each piece until the top part of the tag is completely covered. And you can see here, after I did each piece and I cut them with my miter shears, I did go in with my pencil and I just made a line across, and this helped me just keep my place of where I wanted the next piece to go so they would all be even. And once I got all the trim pieces cut, I took 4 of them and I just stained them with the walnut wood tint. The last 2 pieces, I ended up staining the one in that light pink color, and I just added a coat onto the piece of trim, and then I went in with a baby wipe and I wiped it off, and this just made it look more like a stain instead of paint. And I did the same thing with this teal color. I just added a thin coat and then I wiped it off with the baby wipe. And once all my trim pieces were dry, I went in with some white chalk paint and distressed each piece. I also went in with the white chalk paint and I distressed each paint stick that I stained earlier. Next, I'm going to work on assembling the sign. I just used some wood glue and some hot glue. I'm going to start with the top paint stick. I'm going to get it lined up, and then I'm going to put the rest of the pieces in place, and then I'm going to do the sides. I'm going to do the same thing, the wood glue and the hot glue, until I get them all glued into place. Next, I'm going to work on attaching the trim pieces to the top of the sign. And I used the same technique. I just used wood glue and hot glue. I did use the stained one, and then the teal one, and then some more of the stained ones, and then the pink. I wanted them kind of alternating in colors. Now I'm going to work on the heart that's going to go in the center of the sign, and I'm just going to hot glue lace along the edges of the heart. And to make a hanger for the sign, I'm just going to use some twine and wood beads. I'm going to tie a knot at the one end of the twine, string the beads on, and then tie a knot at the other end. Before I put the hanger on, I'm going to take some of this greenery and I'm just going to hot glue it to the top of the heart. And now I'm just going to attach the hanger to the back of the sign. I just used hot glue. I put some on the bottom and then I added some extra on top so that it would hold into place. Next, I'm just going to hot glue the heart to the center of the sign. I have both signs here beside each other just so I could line them up so they would both be even. And here is how they turned out. I think these are probably my favorite. Let me know what you think in the comments below. DIY number 6 is a Scrabble love sign. I'm going to start this DIY with 2 large paint sticks, some of the wood tiles from Dollar Tree, and a piece of decorative trim. The first thing I did was cut my paint sticks each to 12 inches using my miter box. And to put these 2 paint sticks together, I'm just going to use some of the wood Jenga blocks from Dollar Tree. I'm going to put 2 in the center. I'm going to use wood glue and hot glue, and then I'm going to put 2 on each end so that the sign sets even and flat. Next, I'm going to take my piece of trim and I'm just going to put it on top of the paint sticks, and I'm going to mark it to the size I want it to be, and then I'm just going to cut it with my miter shears. Next, I'm going to take this thicker piece of trim. I think it's a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 6 foot. I'm going to lay it across my paint sticks and measure it out to the length that I want and cut it with my miter box. And here I'm just checking to see if my little wood pieces are going to stand up. Now I'm just going to go in with some wood glue and hot glue, and I'm just going to glue both pieces into place. Next, I'm going to take this 1/4 inch square dowel and I'm going to use it to make my letters for my sign. And I'm just going to take my miter shears and cut them to length to make the L, the V, and the E. I will be using a heart for the O. And I'm just going to start with the L, and the longest part of the L is going to be 3.5 inches, and the short side is going to be 2.5 inches. Now I'm going to work on the V, and both sides of the V are going to be 3.5 inches. For the tip of the V, I just took one of the 3.5 inch pieces, I cut the tip at an angle, and then I took the other piece, laid it on top of the one I cut, and then lined it up and cut it the same as the other one, so they would both be the same angle. And when you put the two angled pieces together at the tip, it should form a V. And now we're going to work on the E. The longest part of the E is going to be 3.5 inches, and then the top and the bottom part of the E is going to be 2.5 inches. And then the middle part that comes out is going to be 2 inches. Next, I'm just going to put a coat of white chalk paint on the stand for our sign. Next, I'm just going to take all of my pieces for my letters and I'm going to give them a coat of white chalk paint. Now I'm just going to give all my wood planks a coat of the walnut wood tint front and back. The heart that I'm going to be using is one of the textured hearts. They come in a pack. I think they were white and red, and I got it from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to give it a coat of the light pink chalk paint. Now I'm just going to assemble all of my letters, and I'm going to put them together with hot glue. If you made it this far in the video, leave me a heart emoji in the comments below. And to finish this DIY up, I'm just going to hot glue the letters and the heart to the wood planks. And here is how this one turned out. I think it's just so simple and pretty. I'm so glad that you could join me today, and if you had a favorite DIY, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.